Hello everyone and welcome back to Age Nagash, channel dedicated to Age Sigmar, and in this video we will be talking about why play Daughters of Khaine. And essentially, if you're new to my Why Play Army series, what we'll be doing in this video is going over the strengths and weaknesses of the Daughters of Khaine to try and help you decide if it's an army you want to play, collect, build and paint. So hopefully by the end of the video you will decide it is an army you like to do. Alternatively, you may find another army you would rather do, but good thing we do that before we spend lots and lots of money. But also, if you've already spent said money and you've had a bit of a lack of motivation to work in the army, get it built, get it painted, start playing some games, hopefully this video will give you that bit of motivation to help you get back onto that army project, or like we said on the former, push over the fence to make you start this army. And before we dive right into the video, what I want to quickly say is that I have essentially just been getting over a sore throat lately, so in case my voice sounds any different, that'll be the reasons. Apologies, hopefully it all comes out okay. Right, so the first thing I want to talk about is going to be the Daughters of Khaine lore. And I honestly believe that the Daughters of Khaine are one of the best examples of why Warhammer is not so black and white in terms of who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. What do I mean by this? So, Daughters of Khaine are part of the Grand Alliance Order. Now, Grand Alliance Order are often seen as the good guys. I completely disagree. I think Death is the good guys, but you know, that's just my opinion, and I am right. So, what is it about the Daughters of Khaine that really make them seem like they're not the good guys? Well, if we're looking at it this way, so we have the Stormcast Eternals coming down to reclaim the realms and cleanse chaos. We have the Sylvaneth that want to bring life back to the realms. And then we have the Dispossessed who, again, they want to reclaim their homelands. And then we have, you know, even like the Kharadron Overlords that might see in the war about profit and stuff. They generally are a good force in the mortal realms. And you could kind of say the same about Fyreslayers, even though there are a bit more mercenary type. And then you have, you know, the Seraphon that are there purely to annihilate all corruption of chaos. And then you have the Daughters of Khaine, and really, quite frankly, what they like to do is they just love stabbing people whilst wearing bikinis. So that may seem like a little bit of a summary of what they are, but to give you a proper sort of lore breakdown, so you've got Morathi, who is the leader of the Daughters of Khaine, and essentially her story is she was a very prominent dark elf in the world that was, who actually had a cult like dedicated to Slaanesh. And eventually, when the world came to an end, she got swallowed by Slaanesh. And then in the new immortal realm, she basically managed to break free of Slaanesh, slither out. And when she came out of him, she was no longer the beautiful sorceress she once was. She was now sort of like twisted into the form of her tormentor. She now looked like a Medusa with snakes instead of hair, and then, you know, obviously like the lower part of her body was just pure snake, and she has these big wings as well. Essentially, you know, if you meet a Tinder date when they can't use filters, that is what we came across when Morathi came out. And when she did come out, the main thing she wanted essentially is godhood. You know, she's looking at it as her son Malarion, who was Malekith in the world that was, is now a god. You know, that's her son. How can, you know, basically skip a generation? Why is she not now a god? You know, she feels more powerful, all this sort of thing. And with that, she kind of tried to use her womanly ways to get into the good books of Sigmar. I think she also tried Nagash as well. You know, he's not interested in any of that. That part of him fell off long ago. So what she did with the other high elf gods, and I say other high, she's not a god, you know. She may one day, but she's not. She is, you know, subpar. Unless, of course, Morathi is watching us at some point in the future. All hail you, beautiful goddess. So what the elven gods collectively did is they basically chained up Slaanesh when he was sleeping after he consumed so many souls after the world was destroyed. They chained him up, and then from all the souls that he has consumed, the elf gods are trying to extract them all from him, you know, one by one, to be able to recreate their races and recreate the elves, essentially. And we've seen things like this, you know, like obviously we've got the Daughters of Khaine, we've got, you know, the Idoneth Deepkin, we've got the Lumineth Realm Lords. There's been a few examples of this, and what they kind of agreed, you know, Teclis, Tyrion, Malarion and Morathi herself, is that they would split the souls evenly. So one can take too many, they would give them, basically everyone had a quarter. And when Morathi started to extract souls, she kind of started to abuse the system and extracted far more than her share, which is not helping with keeping Slaanesh all nicely locked up. The more greedy Morathi's getting, the more and more chance he's going to try and break out as his basically bonds become all weakened. And what does Morathi do when she takes these souls out? She's basically forming them into her image, because she's partly disgusted with how she looks, like I said, the Medusa sort of look, but she acknowledges the power that comes with it. And because of that, that's why we see, units of Medusa. You see like canaries as well, or like the harpy units, and that's really where it comes from. And then you also, of course, get the normal, like witch elves and the Sisters of Slaughter. But that is really like old units that are in the army, and then the newer units they brought out, the new plastic and kits and all that sort of thing, were shaped in the form of Morathi. You do, of course, have Doomfire Warlocks, which are the only like male units you can have in the army, but they are literally treated as a subspecies in the Daughters of Khaine. There is no gender equality in that army. So Morathi has been slowly taking these souls, slowly making her own, army and everything like that, and basically been chilling out and hiding in the Realm of Shadows, as she can do all of this stuff without all the other gods from the Pantheon, from Order, sort of like seeing what she's up to. So she quite likes being shrouded and mist and, disguised, because that is also the other interesting thing about Morathi, is the fact that, like I said, she's this big monstrous creature. But by using her, powers and, magic of, manipulation and disguise and all those sorts of things, she can make herself look like the, young, beautiful sorceress, kind of what she looks like in the world that was. She still tries to maintain that image, and that is incredibly important to her, and that's like, her queen image. And she only really breaks that when she needs to unleash her full ferocity, or she gets so angry she cannot contain this facade, if you like. And the other thing is, when she basically goes beast mode, it can take a long time for her to return back to her lovely image. And I think really that's about it, I want to say, for the lore. You do have some new lore coming out for Morathi in the Broken Realms. She's going to be very dominant in that, especially the first book. It's literally her name. And, this may be why I play Daughters of Khaine. It's like why we mainly focus this on Morathi. That's because she is, the leader. Basically, she's got them all convinced, all the Daughters of Khaine convinced that they're fighting and worshipping Khaine, when actually they're fighting for Morathi, and all the blood they spill is going towards trying to make Morathi a god and not powering Khaine. Morathi's basically got them all tricked and twisted around her little finger to make them do whatever she wants and to try and ascend her to a godhood, because Khaine is definitely dead from as far as I can see in the lore. And like I say, the Broken Realms will update the sort of lore we have for Morathi. It's something that I will potentially get as well. If I do, I can always do a review on it. And it looks like there's going to be some interesting stuff, and it's going to shake up a little bit, like sort of like meta-wise, and the lore also, I'd say, of Age of Sigmar. As I'm a massive fan of, the Soul Wars and everything, it's all very death-themed and stuff, but I think it'd be nice if some of our armies got a go on the, the story, if you like, rather than it just being death all the time, because death didn't have much lore for about 3-4 years, and then suddenly just loads. So yeah, fair enough. Okay, this is not a death video, this is a Daughters of Khaine video, so let's get back to it. But what I will say, if you want any more lore on Morathi, I've actually done a short lore video on her as well, which you can check out, which there will be a link to it at the end of this video. You'll see it pop up and you can click it if you want to watch a little bit more, or just go to the playlist. But anyway, so now that we know the summary of who the Daughters of Khaine are, half-naked ladies that go around stabbing people and draining their blood to feed their god Khaine, which doesn't exist but is actually just powering Morathi to try and ascend her to godhood, why would you play them? So firstly, we'll look at the strengths, and we are actually going to look at the strengths off the table as well as on the tables. I think that's always a nice and important thing to do. I know myself, like I like to collect and paint and stuff, and I sort of do a lot of that, like thinking towards of why I want to play my games. The amount of games I play, especially, well, with everything going on in the world at the moment, is very minimum. So it's very important, I think, to look at the hobby aspect as well. So the strengths I'd say for the Daughters of Khaine is they have a lovely model range, some incredibly well detailed models, and some very, very cool ones as well. I sort of joked a little bit in the lore by saying, it's mainly all female stuff. But I, to be honest, think they make for lovely models. I know myself, if I'm trying to do a conversion for my, my death stuff and vampires, I tend to go for like a more sort of like a female conversion. Or I know Cersei of my Slaves of Darkness that I'm currently on with my, Slaanesh theme. I do tend to go quite heavy on like, female characters and stuff. I think that's just because they look really cool. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that aesthetic in this army, and I do actually like, obviously Witch Elves, but the Sisters of Slaughter I think are much cooler than Witch Elves. Personally, they've got the whips and change. How kinky do you want the army really at this point? But my favourite unit is probably the Canary, the Harper units with the javelins. I think they're absolutely brilliant. And the snakes are really, really cool as well. If it was my army, what I'd do, I would definitely go with the snakes as my battle line option rather than Witch Elves. And that's just because I think Medusae look really cool and I like, elite armies. But if I was to go with a sort of Witch Elf build, I would choose Sisters of Slaughter, just because I honestly think they look really cool. They have really nice masks. It's a very, very aesthetically pleasing army. And you have not the biggest choice of units to choose from, but not the smallest is what I'd say. You'll find there are a few things that you can buy one kit and it can turn out it can make like 3 different units or something. It is that kind of army, a little bit like Flesh Eater Courts, but not as much. But no, you still have a fair amount of unit choice. And like I've mentioned already, Morathi, she is one of the best looking models Games Workshop have ever made, in my honest opinion. She's in my... I don't know, if I had like a list of her top 10 models, she would definitely be there. And she's absolutely fantastic. I really want her, not because I have a Daughters of Khaine army, but like maybe to do like a conversion for a Slaanesh army, just because I've seen it done before and it looks very cool. And she's really great. And what I like about her as well is that she actually comes in 2 parts. So like I said, you have, the beautiful sort of normal like elf, or should probably be saying throughout this video, elf is copyright reasons. But anyway, her elf form. You get her as a model, and then you also get the big monstrous creature of her actual form, which I think is cool, and it plays an interesting role as well on the table. So yeah, not the biggest selection of models, but not the smallest, I believe, in the game as well. They've got, I think they probably have more than Iron Jaws, but we'll see on that. And there's always a chance, obviously, they can get new models as well. And what I also like with the army is there are so many different ways to paint it. And I know you can really say that about a lot of armies out there, but there are a lot of different sub-legions, which are called temples in this case, which you can paint to match what you want, or you can come up with your own temple, of course. And because there's a lot of skin in this army, it allows you to come up with a lot of different tattoo schemes and all that sort of thing. Obviously, that depends on your skill and stuff, but let's just say if you want to go the witch elf route, you're going to have a lot of opportunity to get experience in painting them, to be able to paint some tattoos. But alternatively, if you wanted to go the snakes, you can do loads of different patterns to your heart content. Obviously, there's fantastic examples out there in nature of different snake colours and everything like that. And honestly, if you had some Medusae to paint and you're a little bit sure, like, how should I paint these? What sort of not sure what scheme should I go for? I'm a bit unsure really. Literally just Google snake patterns and you'll have so much to choose from. I know it sounds quite obvious, but honestly, it will give you plenty of inspiration and ideas. I know for mine, like I said, don't do Daughters of Khaine, but I do use Daughters of Khaine bits for my Slaanesh conversions, and I've gone for like a white, like black and purpley sort of theme for it as well, which I'm really happy with. And from the bits of Daughters of Khaine I've painted, and like I say, it's a bit wigs. I don't do the army, but I have actually painted a fair bit of them for my Slaanesh army. I've really enjoyed painting what I've painted for them, in all honesty, and I've will keep on buying Daughters of Khaine bits to use for my Slaanesh, as it works beautifully. And even like the Witch Elves and Sister Slaughter, that aren't the newest models, they still fit in very nicely. I honestly think they do a very good job of it, and it's a lovely model range. And then just the last thing I want to say is from like a hobby aspect, I really like the theme they have of that sort of Greek vibe, and it's something they've definitely pushed in Age of Sigmar for the Daughters of Khaine. Temples. Even if you looked at, I think the dice that came out for them looked like they were marble. I really love that, and that is the theme. Like, Greek mythology is like the theme behind my Slaanesh, so it ties in really well. And I know this is not a Slaanesh video, but for me, Daughters of Khaine are so closely related to my own projects, I couldn't help but to bring that up. And I think, to be honest, that's enough on the sort of hobby side. A really, really nice army to collect. So going on to strengths on the table, Daughters of Khaine are renowned for being one of the most powerful armies out there. Are they an army that I would say is incredibly broken? Like, how are you meant to play against it? No, they're not. I wouldn't say they're not the top army. I don't even know if I'd say they're the top 3. Like, let's say you had like a very good person playing Daughters of Khaine versus a very good person playing Seraphon, or a Zeech, or Fleshy, of course. I don't know if they could beat them, like one-on-one, but on your average games, if you get well with your Daughters of Khaine, you can do a very good job. They have some very good inherent abilities. For literally girls who wear bikini armor, they have a remarkable way of being able to shrug off damage. Of course, since the new General's Handbook, you can only get like 1 ward save, 1 death save, 1 after damage save, whatever you want to call it, but they are still very good. Also, Daughters of Khaine are renowned for being one of the strongest melee focused army. They've got a lot of synergies and abilities of the army that are very easy to go off. There's a very little chance of failure, unless you're of course terrible with your dice, like I can be. So I feel your pain there, but generally you can get them off without a problem. Like, one of the biggest examples is if you can turn a Witch Elf unit into a massive blender, and also a unit that's quite hard to chew through as well. They're really it's hard to explain unless you fought against a Witch Elf block or something as part of a Daughters of Khaine army. It's honestly quite hard to explain how much of a pain in the arse it is to deal with. So why not 2 blocks of Witch Elves? But there we are. But what I want to sort of say on that note, and sort of talking about the Witch Elf part of it, is for a long time it was seen as Daughters of Khaine can only really be competitive if you go heavy on the Witch Elves. And this feels like kind of where it's coming to weaknesses, but I'll get this to it in a moment. And that's mainly because Witch Elves are very expensive to buy. So it was quite a hard armor to buy into, especially when people would be taking like 120 Witch Elves in a game, in their list at a tournament. But something that's been more and more apparent as the Daughters of Khaine Battle Tomes came out is that people have been doing surprisingly well with taking a few units of snakes, a few units of Medusae, as they can be very good. They can do a different job to the Witch Elves, but still be able to do the job they are needed within the game to obviously, whatever it's going to be, if it's going to be wipe out enemy unit to get an objective, or whatever they're required to do. However, even with me trying to big up the snakes, because like I say, I like them, it became very apparent that, Witch Elves are still going to be the most competitive. That's what you want to go for. However, with the Broken Realms book coming out, it's becoming increasingly apparent that the snakes are getting a bit better. The Medusa are getting a bit better. And to the point where we could start seeing them more on the table. Like, even from when this Battle Tome came out and we just saw a lot of Witch Elves, we're starting to, like I say, we're seeing a change with people taking more Medusa units. And I think also a reason behind that is because, like I sort of mentioned, fighting a pure Witch Elf army, it's not fun. So people's opponents, like, if you were to collect Daughters of Khaine, like I say, hopefully that's the idea you're getting, the vibe from this video, and you just wanted to go full Witch Elves, you didn't care about the other stuff, you just want to go full Witch Elves, making them as competitive as you can. If you're not playing at tournaments, you're playing this in your local scene, that's fine. People aren't going to tell you, you can't play with your models and all that sort of thing. But if you keep on bringing just nothing but blocks of Witch Elves, people probably are going to get a bit fed up of fighting your army. And that doesn't mean to say, I've collected the wrong arm, done wrong. Just switch up, get some Medusa units, just break the mold a little bit, and it just makes it a lot more fun for you as well. You're playing with a bit more variety. You're just playing the same units all the time. It's not very fun. And for me as well, like I say, I really like the snakes. I'm glad that they're getting a bit better, and they're getting a bit more of a focus as well, because where we sort of come into the weaknesses now, I think we can tie into. This army is, if you want to go full Witch Elves, it's not an easy army to collect, build and paint. I suppose build is not the word, you know, you're just building lots of models. But collecting, witch elves are going to cost you £35 for 10 of them. And obviously that's in the UK, so you know, if you're in a different country, chances are more expensive because of shipping costs and all that sort of thing. They're not in the Start Collecting box, so you can't get an easy buy there. Obviously you can find some cheap ones in second hand and stuff, but there you go, but probably not the easiest to find that. So it's going to become very expensive, especially, you know, if you want 120 in your army, for example. It's became ridiculous. You're looking at, what is that, some quick maths, that is £420. So ridiculous. That's not even your whole army. Yeah, so you can see how it's frustrating and how expensive they are, and it's almost like, well, Games Workshop has definitely been doing a price hike lately, and it's almost like this was like the price hike from before. You know, they fit the new price hike prices. So there is that, which I'd say is a big problem. If you wanted to go heavy on Witch Elves, do you need 120 in your army? Absolutely not. You could have anything from, you know, 30, just a big block of them, or you can have up to 90. You know, you don't have to. I'm just saying from what I've seen on the meta lists, if you like, what we see at tournaments. So you can see how it's quite off-putting there. And then obviously you've got to build like 120 models, which I know isn't really the worst part, but then it comes to painting 120 models. And I'm going to leave a caveat here, because I would say that that's not going to be fun to paint, and to be honest, it won't be. But the only caveat I'll leave is because of contrast paints, sort of what I talked about in my why play, you know, Disciples of Each video, where there's a lot of skin. Contrast is going to be your friend here. It's going to make things a lot easy. My advice to you, particularly if you're quite new, don't paint the eyes. Just leave the eyes, and you'll maybe have some sanity left. In my honest opinion, I wouldn't want to paint the eyes. That's why I collect death. That's why, you know, I have like over 140 or 60 skeletons and just sockets, easy to paint. So, if anything, to be honest, you don't really, because you just do the dry brush over it. But yeah, so you can see where my point I'm coming from where the negatives are of collecting this army. If you wanted to go heavy a witch elf, it's a big problem. Like I say, if I was to do a witch elf build, I'd really use that kit towards Sister Slaughter, i.e. you don't have to paint the eyes because you just can't see them anyway, and I think they look a lot cooler. I mean, it was still paint, it's still really expensive, but that's why I would go for Medusae, and that's really what I'm trying to get to you guys, is that this army is, like I said, a big negative and a big weakness is the collecting side, because you need to borrow those witch elves. And of course you never really did, because you could use Medusae, but they weren't the best part of the army, but now they're becoming better and better and better, so it's encouraging you to maybe get the Start Collector box, because that's got the Medusae in it, and Medusae are getting better. Happy days. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I feel like I'm going a little bit in circles and stuff with the Witch Elves, but it's a conversation I needed to have with you guys, just so you're aware that, you know, Witch Elves isn't, you know, you can take a unit of 10 or something, but they're not elite infantry where you go, I'm just going to take 10 of them. You know, 10 of them is a good number because they're £35 for 10. That's not the case, sadly. But the Star Collector box still is, I like it, to be honest. I think it's still good because you get the big shrine, you get Medusae. I think it works out to be £55, and if you were to buy the units separately, it's £77.50, I think. So with that, it's not bad value if you want those units. And there's lots of ways you can build the shrine, so it never hurts to have one or two, and you're going to get loads of spares as well with it. And the beauty of the Daughters of Khaine really is that the different temples really do complement different play styles as well, because like there's some that help out with what I also love with the Canary unit is that they're sort of like, you know, deep strike ability, and there's things that can help with that as well. You know, so it really can come down to different temples helping different units. It's not they all just only help witch elves and stuff. There are ones that benefit other units. So don't feel like this army is just witch elves, and because you don't want to, you know, buy that many, of course, or, you know, build and paint that many, this army can't be for you. There are other routes you can go down. I feel like I've spent a long time explaining that part, but as I said, it's important to talk about it. And so with that, sort of talking about, you know, weaknesses on the table now, what the Daughters of Khaine not so great at. So their standard saves are not fantastic. And I know I just said, but they're very savable, and they have, you know, like they struggle for and stuff. Yeah, but their standard saves are not generally that great. as of course they are wearing bikini armor. You know, like you're looking at standard witch elves in the combat phase, their save goes from a 6+ to a 5+ because they're fighting, and they got some chance of doing some more wounds back to the enemy depending on how you equip them and stuff. So they're not awful, but their saves are not the best part of the army. The army can be quite expensive on points, which of course doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing, but you know, like to get 3 minimum battle line units in your army, it's going to cost you 360 points with the you know, just via the witch elves. So it's going to be quite expensive army. Like I say, it's not an army I collect, but I know as an army I do collect, like Ostrich Bone Reapers. It's a similar problem where, like for example there, if you don't want to go too heavy on Mortek Guard and you don't really want to take Death Riders, you still have to pay quite a bit of money for them. It can kind of be the same here, but you can take you know, Medusae as battle line if you have a Medusa as your you know, general, or unless there's any other new rules coming out in that Broken Realm book to allow Medusae to be battle line. I wish you could have Canary as a battle line, as they are my favourite unit in the whole army, but alas, at the moment you can't. If you can when you're watching this, fantastic. And what I would say is a massive sort of you know, it's kind of, it sounds like a strength but a weakness, is your characters are so vital to your army that the enemy, if they bring shooting, you are in trouble. If they bring a lot of shooting against you, if they bring like mediocre shooting, you can probably get around it, it'll be alright, but if they bring a dedicated shooting list against you, you know, Stormcast shooting, all that sort of thing, Shootcast, Mortek Crawlers, you could be in trouble. Because if your buff pieces get taken out, this army starts to fall apart. Doesn't mean that this army, like for example, if all the heroes go in this army, does that mean that the army just flat out just can't function? No. But it really is quite dependent on certain heroes in this army, depending on how you build your list. So enemy shooting is something you definitely need to be concerned about, and you need to have a kind of plan, a way to counter it. Similarly, your army doesn't have fantastic shooting. They do have some shooting, but it's quite mediocre. It's not like saying a death army bar, like one unit that can shoot. No, you'll get a little bit more shooting than that, depending on how you build your list, and it can be alright, but shooting isn't your strong point. Stick to your melee. Have a few shooting units in here so you can give yourself a bit of variety depending on what the situation requires at that moment in the game, but you're never really going to be massively shooting unless of course a new rule comes out in like the Broken Realms books that really does change that part of the army, which would be really cool. So I would love to see more Canary that can shoot, and you know, the Medusae that can shoot. I think that would be really cool to see, rather than like I say big blocks of witch elves all the time. But yeah, that's not your strongest point. Also, magic isn't your strongest point. Of course, you've got like sacrifices and prayers, I think they are, in the Daughters of Khaine. But your magic, you're really like only good magic caster is going to be Morathi themselves. And is Morathi something you want to take in your armies? That's something we do always ask ourselves when we look at these big armies. Like, you know, we look at, you know, Legion of Nagash. Oh, is Nagash a good thing to put in the army? You know, it's his legions and everything. Currently, no. But as a new person, you naturally think he probably was a good thing for the army. Morathi is a good thing for the army. She's getting only better from what I can see in the Broken Realms and the previews they've shown us as well. And yeah, that's really cool because it's lovely to have these massive centerpiece on the table, especially when Morathi's a bit harder to kill off as well. So she lasts a little while before she just gets wiped clean off the board, like a lot of the big things do in a Warhammer. So yeah, that's cool to see. And like I say, because she is really your main caster in this army, and that is a weakness because you know, your lack of spell casting, it'll be good to have her in your army to be able to sort of compete a little bit in the magic phase, and especially how her range and spells can be quite large as well with that one. Another thing to say with the Daughters of Khaine is that they don't really mix well with allies. Of course you can ally certain armies in with the Daughters of Khaine, but they are mainly sort of stick to themselves. It's mainly part of their allegiance ability, so they've got a thing similar to the Idenith Deepkin with, you know, like the tides. The Daughters of Khaine have something else, and it's something that stacks as well. So you get this ability on like turn 1, this ability on turn 2. Basically, as more blood flows, more abilities happen, and of course that's not going to affect your allied units. And with that, and because you, like I say, you have so much synergy in the army, you kind of can't really afford to break away from it and put something else in. Of course, if you want to put in something that you think, oh, this War Scroll could be really good for the army, of course, go ahead. But from what I can see, it wouldn't really benefit too much for the army, I think. And with that, guys, I think really that's about it. So sort of in summary, why would you play Daughters of Khaine? Firstly, I'm going to say that they're getting a new supplement coming out in the Broken Realms books, and that means that they're going to get some updated rules. So firstly, that's a cool reason to do them. Secondly, an awesome army to collect, really nice models, really quite a unique army as well. It's a bit different to everything else out there, and it's very different to, you know, like the nice Elves of Order. These are very different. And of course, you know, INFDPN who go around stealing the souls of other people isn't exactly nice. But, you know, girls in bikinis with knives stabbing people it feels fairly unique. So, yeah, there is that appeal as well. Like I say, lovely to collect, lovely to paint. I love the Greek theme to the army as well. Marathi is an awesome model. And sort of talking about on the table, don't feel like you have to go Witch Elves now. That's the only option. It probably will be the most competitive option for a while, but don't feel like you have to do that. Don't feel like you'll lose all your friends by doing that, because you don't have to. So bear that in mind. But if you do want to do that, you have got contrast paints to help you with that job. Another cool thing with the army is that it's not very highly represented at tournaments and stuff. When it goes to tournaments, it does tend to do quite well, but not many people take this army, and that's because it can be a bit of a challenge, and this army came out before contrast paints. So before contrast paints, this army is not an easy army to paint at all. And with that, not a lot of people collect it. So it's a bit easier to do it now. And the other thing with the army as well is because, like I say, it's not a overly popular army. You're cool if you do it. You might be the only one in your store who does it, or the only one in your gaming group who has the army. And it's always nice to be different, I think, in that sort of thing. I always try to like to do armies that are different. And to be honest, that's why I do quite a lot of conversions, so my army looks different to everyone else's, really. And I have an Daughters of Khaine army. I know, like, locally there may be one player or something, or one collector in my area, but that's about it compared to what I could say of how many people collect Stormcast. So there is a big difference, and it really is a cool army. I've got more than enough armies, but it is one that I've always been sort of tempted to do. If I was to dive into order, I would be tempted by the Daughters of Khaine, and I'm very much looking forward to the new rules coming out for them in the Broken Realms book, as I reckon I will get it. I'll see what money's like, but I reckon I will, because I think that'd be quite cool. But anyway, guys, before I continue to ramble on, I am very happy you watched this video, and I hope you found it useful. I hope it's made you decide if it's an army you want to do, or alternatively, there's another army you'd like to do. And with that, I have also got, like I say, a long series. Like, I'm near the end of how many army reviews and my why play series I've done. I've got like probably 20 other videos on army reviews. It's like why play them, you know, like why play, you know, Austrian Bone Reapers and Nighthorn or Blades of Khorne. So go check that out if you're not completely sold on Daughters of Khaine. But with that, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if so, please smash that like button and that subscribe button, as that massively helps the channel. It's absolutely free for you guys to do so, and I really, really do appreciate it. I also want to say a massive shout out to my patrons, who you should be able to see on the screen now. They do an enormous job, and because of them, I am able to keep making videos. If I didn't have those really fantastic people on that site, I wouldn't be able to continue the YouTube channel. So say a massive thank you to those guys. They do a great job, and if you would like to support the channel on Patreon as well, anything helps, even from just $1 a month. It really helps keep the channel going. There will be a link to my Patreon at the top of the description down below. Okay, guys, so I also want to say just quickly, apologies if, like I say, my voices sound a little bit off during this video. Essentially, I've still got a sore throat a bit, but I wanted to get this video out to you guys because I thought it would be nice to get a Y play out soon. I thought it would be nice to get a Y play out soon before the new Broken Realms books coming out, because I imagine there are a few people thinking about starting Daughters of Khaine, and you know, a Y play video is useful and helpful for you guys. So hopefully, like I say, the advice in this video has been useful for you to make that decision. And if you're still a little bit unsure, just go for it. You know you're going to want to start the army. You'll enjoy it. Okay, guys. So, like I say, thank you very much for watching this video. And remember, until next time, stay safe and hygienic and everything else. And of course, remember, Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.